everyone! Happy Valentine's Day. I am still in my studio, but I haven't done any decorating yet, which is kind of annoying. We've been living in this apartment for 2 months, and we still haven't really found the time / energy to fix it. But so I don't have a nice background yet. I want it to look so cute and have things on the wall, but I can't really decide what I'm going to do yet. But that has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about in this video. I want to share the news that I am going to be at Surtex this year. Last year, I showed my portfolio at Surtex with my art collective or design studio, Swedish Creatures, and that went really well as a group show. At the show, we met an agent, Nerida Hansen, and she started talking to us about next year, and then over the coming months around this past fall, she asked if she could represent us at Surtex in 2018. We said, of course, yes. The only thing is that we won't be represented as a group, we'll be represented individually. I can't speak today. I think this is a good thing because as a group maybe we overshadow each other, and as individuals then we can kind of shine in our own right. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it is to have an agent who really knows the business, who has a lot more customers than what we had at the first show. You know, someone who's really good at selling, because it's so hard to sell your own work. At least I think it is. At least it's hard for me. So I'm going to be showing my work at Surtex 2018 in May. I believe it's the 20th to the 22nd, and the booth number is 2528. Pretty sure. Our agent, that's so weird to say. I feel like I'm some kind of celebrity or something, but obviously not. Nerida has a concept for this show for 12 artists that are going to be represented by her, curated we can say, and it is to be a little bit trendier. So she's given us 6 themes that she wants us to work with, and we have to do 2 collections per theme with 5 patterns in each collection. So that's 60 patterns that we're going to compile and create a beautiful lookbook for her to show at the show. So I have been, for the past few months, trying to organize as much as I possibly can to see which patterns that I already have in my portfolio that I can reuse, just recolor and maybe update slightly, and then try to figure out how many more I have to actually draw to complete to complement and make my collections really beautiful and what's it called, sale worthy, because that's the whole point. I want to sell as many designs as I possibly can because I want it to be a good show for me and my agent too. In this video I just want to bring you closer to my process of what I'm doing to plan out my mini collections. I can give you a few peeks at some designs that I have created, and I think that's pretty much it. So I'll bring you in a little bit closer. I can show you what I've been working on. Alright, here we are in my planner, and I'm not sure how much you can read here, hopefully nothing. But when I got the prompts, then I wrote down as much information, and then what I was prompted when I thought about the color scheme and the theme that I wanted to go for, and I wrote down some really rough ideas for all of the 12 collections that I have to do. So I just wrote that I want to do like a frosty greenhouses for one. I came up with the idea, I saw that in my head. Or I wanted to do with my usual girly makeup and skincare boudoir-y kind of thing, pearls and lace. And then other things. I want to do a collection inspired by Swedish Kurbits, if you know what that is, like the traditional Swedish folk art, because I've never done that before, and there was one color scheme that really, like, that seemed like exactly those colors. And then so I went through that and I started sketching out ideas on my iPad that I'll show you in a little bit. I have also done a little checklist here with my 12 collections and like some kind of name, but they're not the actual name really, except for Day in Paris, I think, is the only one that I've finished completely with a name that's proper and stuff. So for every 5 collection I have to do 5, so I've been circling in when I am finished with a pattern for the collection, and then some of the collections I've already finished. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 collections I've already finished. So I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to go. And I think I counted previously, I have 27 more patterns to finish or draw completely or take something from my personal archives and redo to fit into my themes. I'm of course trying to reuse as many as I can because I have many beautiful prints. I just have to, you know, show them in a different light. It's also going to be really helpful to have a lookbook later where you can show items in mock-ups in the scale that you had envisioned, or just instead of just seeing a flat image, sometimes when you can see it with like a textured background as a cushion or something, then it becomes a little bit more alive and easier to sell, possibly. That's the goal, at least. So here, that's the only thing that I've done on paper, and then I moved into the iPad to finish the rest of the planning. Okay, it's rather difficult to film a screen, but I think this is gonna work out fine. Here we are in Adobe Sketch, and I started a project for each of the collections so that I had somewhere to come up with ideas and things. I can go into one of them. So right when I opened the project, I brought out the color palette. Some of these color palettes I'm going to tweak later because now that I've started using them, they're not working out as nicely, but this one I think I still like. It's very soft and muted, elegant, sophisticated, and all that stuff. So this is one of the ways that I started, and I picked some random background colors when I envisioned how they would look. This isn't necessarily how the final collection turns out. I'll show you soon what that looks like, but this is at least how I started. So I had the colors, and I started writing down my 5 ideas, and then I put a little star next to the ones that I actually do have already. I ended up using all 5 that I already have created previously for this collection. So that's just how one of them I set up. We can go into another one. Here, this is the one that I've done most work for, Paris for a Day. I thought that this color scheme as well was really beautiful and very me. I chose not to use these 2 darker colors because I thought it ruined the whole look. I like the overall muted pastel-y look, obviously. And for this one, I actually only reused one, my macaroons print. So I drew 4 new illustrations for this collection, which was fun. So I did end up mocking these ones out pretty much as they were in my head, and then I created the final illustrations, and they turned out pretty much as I had envisioned to begin with, which is kind of neat and a little bit different for me because usually I never do this process, but I do think it is helpful. So I think I will continue to do these simple sketches. It doesn't take that much time, and it's a nice way to visualize how an entire collection will look together before you start creating the final version and spending a lot of time on that. I think you save a little time doing this. So once I had sketched out those ideas, then I went in and started sketching the actual prints that I was going to do. I wanted to do one with simple roses, so here's my pencil sketch for those. I wanted to do one with like a Paris style, or like if you had packed your bag for a weekend, what would you bring? Or what would, I don't know, And then I wanted to do one with kind of like a contemporary toile and lots of sights and typical Parisian things that we have in our head that we romanticize about Paris. Yes. And the last one, I had this idea, I've had this in my brain forever to do Parisian balconies because they have the most beautiful iron banisters ever and so many details and frills, and I thought that that would be a really pretty print. So I'm glad that I finally had the chance to create that. So once I had these, I could move into Adobe Draw and finish them. But before I do that, I wanted to show you one thing that I really liked about using Adobe's software, because this is also Adobe and Adobe Draw and then Adobe Illustrator, they're all connected. So then I could, when I had my my color palette, I could save it to use later. So here, I can save a color palette. I could change it. This one was called Life Force. So I could have it here and then open up the same color palette in Adobe Draw to use. So I had the same colors I'm using at all times. So I wasn't using different colors all the time. So that was really neat. Also, when you move from the two, when you move from the two applications, then I could just copy here to the clipboard and then paste into Adobe Draw. So I didn't really have to like save and import it. So let's go into Adobe Draw now to just see how the other ones. Oh, here's some chilies I'm working on. So I did the same thing. I created projects for the different ones. So here's Paris for a day again. We can look at here's how the balconies turned out. And then I sent them to Adobe Illustrator to make the final pattern. But this is where I drew everything, all the little frilly balconies. I thought they turned out really sweet. I like this one. I don't know, I think this one was a little bit different for me than usual. I usually always have black lines, but this time I chose to do solid colors, like the what are they called? Curtains don't have any lines, and then the white windows, of course, are a little bit different, and then only the banisters are black lines. See? And then I do one of these. This is, I think, is a kind of a typical EmmaKisstina kind of print. I do a lot of these things. Should do more. Kind of see, this is my signature look, I guess. And then this one I thought turned out really nice as well. I chose to do like solid cream white behind all of the items to make them pop a little bit more, so it wasn't just black on this nice, what are they called, chartreuse. And then my simple roses. First I was thinking it would be cute with a little polka dot in the background, but I think I ended up just doing plain. So that's what I've been doing for my collections. Oh, here's the beauty ones that I was talking about previously. I brought those in and drew and colored. I had sketched them in Adobe Sketch. Yeah. So this is a little skincare, and then I did one with beauty. So that's what I'm working on so far. Here's a little sneak peek of another collection, the one that's inspired by Swedish folk art. So there's a little peek. Okay, so then once I had finished my drawings in Adobe Draw, I brought them into Adobe Illustrator, and here you see the drawing that I created in Adobe Draw, and I created a final pattern with those. Zoom in a little bit more. I think this one turned out really sweet. Yeah, so then I finished the rest of the other ones for the collection, and I made a file where I did 5 boxes, and once they were completed, the different patterns, I threw them in here. I adjusted colors that were as needed, and yeah, then this is the final collection. I'm still kind of debating whether or not I like the yellowy roses or if I like the light ones. I'm not sure if this one's too much yellow or not. I can't decide. So yeah, this is what I'm doing for all of the other 12 collections. I have a Illustrator file that has 5 boxes, and as I complete a pattern, I put it in here and I change backgrounds and I adjust the colors so that everything flows nicely and it becomes a really nice final collection. Okay, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that it was interesting and that you learned something more about my process. If you have any questions, please let me know. Are you going to Surtex or do you want to go to Surtex? Do you have any questions for me? I'd be happy to answer those for you. Other than that, I think that's it. Thanks so much for watching. See you.